In 2019, a small plane crashed in the jungles of Congo. Of all the passengers, only one person survived. An 11-year-old girl. She crawled from the wreckage, bleeding, barefoot, and alone, and then she walked, for days, through thick jungle, with no map, no food, no help. When they finally found her, all she said was, "I just kept going." That's Stoicism, without a single word of philosophy. No books, no quotes, no mindset, just action, just clarity in chaos, just endurance when nothing made sense. And in a way, that's the promise of Stoic philosophy. Not that it'll make you feel better, but that it'll help you stand better when everything falls apart. We live in a world where self-help is everywhere. You can wake up at 5 a.m., cold shower your way into dopamine discipline, and recite affirmations while bullet journaling your goals into the quantum field. But if you're still anxious, reactive, emotionally fragile, something's missing. And the Stoics knew exactly what it was. They didn't try to be happy. They trained to be unbreakable. That's the real question. Would you rather be happy or hard to break? Let's start with what Stoicism isn't. It's not about being emotionless. It's not about suppressing sadness or pretending pain doesn't exist. In fact, the Stoics didn't reject emotion. They studied it. They trained with it. They didn't aim to feel good. They aimed to respond well. And that difference is everything. Take Epictetus. He was born a slave. His master once broke his leg just to watch him suffer. And yet, Epictetus taught this: it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. He believed radically that nothing outside of us can truly harm us. Only our reaction can. And what's fascinating? Modern psychology, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, follows this exact idea. CBT literally grew from Stoic thought. If you've ever challenged a negative belief or reframed a stressful event, you've practiced Stoicism without knowing it. But Epictetus didn't just talk about it. He lived it. Without freedom, without wealth, without comfort. He trained his mind while living in chains. That's where Stoicism begins. Not with power, but with powerlessness. And it leads us to the first real tool in the Stoic kit, the dichotomy of control. Everything in life falls into two categories: what you can control and what you can't. You can control your actions. You can't control outcomes. You can control your attitude. You can't control what others think, say, or do. When you stop fighting for control over the uncontrollable, something incredible happens. You regain control of yourself. And this is where modern self-help often fails. It's obsessed with control. Control your morning, your mindset, your timeline, your income stream. It promises you can engineer everything. But the Stoics knew better. They taught that control is an illusion until you narrow it down to you. Not your boss, not your partner, not the weather, you. And when everything collapses around you, that's all you really have anyway. Nowhere is this more obvious than in how we treat time. Seneca, the wealthiest Stoic of his time, wrote, "You act like mortals in what you fear, and like immortals in what you desire." In other words, we panic about dying, but live like we'll never die. We waste time like it's infinite, scrolling, procrastinating, endlessly distracted. And then we wonder where the day went, the month, the year. But to the Stoics, time wasn't a resource. It was sacred. Every hour was a test of wisdom. They spent it carefully, like gold. So here's a thought. What if you treated your time like your bank balance, visible, limited, and disappearing? How would you spend it then? Even Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, asked himself that question every day. He ruled an empire, dealt with plagues, wars, betrayals. And yet he wrote privately in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Marcus didn't write for the world. He wrote for himself. He trained, not in comfort, but in chaos. His journal was a gym, his mind, the muscle. He didn't have peace because life was easy. He had peace because he built it, relentlessly. And part of that mental training involved something we avoid at all costs: death. Memento mori. Remember you will die. To us, it sounds morbid, dark, depressing. To the Stoics, it was clarifying. If you remembered your death daily, you wouldn't waste time. You wouldn't say yes to meaningless things. You wouldn't fear failure. You'd cut through the noise and live. And with death in mind, they practiced another tool: premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They visualized everything that could go wrong before it happened. Not to worry, to prepare. What if I lose my job? What if my partner leaves? What if my body breaks down? If you only train for blue skies, you'll panic when the storm hits. But if you imagine the storm ahead of time, if you rehearse loss, you're ready. You don't break, you adapt. And to do that well, you have to master one key skill: delaying your reaction. Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is more harmful than the injury that provokes it." How often do we make things worse just by reacting too fast? The Stoics trained themselves to pause, to insert a space between the trigger and the response, to choose instead of explode. It's hard, it takes practice, but that space, that moment of control, that's where your power begins. To deepen that power, they used another tool, one that modern influencers love but rarely understand: voluntary discomfort. Seneca fasted even when his pantry was full. He wore rough clothes while owning silk. Why? So that if poverty ever came, he wouldn't fear it. He'd already lived it. Today, we take cold showers and call it discipline. But the principle is the same. If you suffer by choice now, you suffer less by surprise later. It's not masochism, it's mental callousing. Comfort is addictive, but discomfort is transformational, and nature confirms that. Marcus Aurelius observed fig trees, dogs, clouds, rivers, and learned from all of them. To the Stoics, nature wasn't scenery, it was a teacher. Nature adapts, nature flows, nature sheds what it no longer needs. So should we. If your life feels forced, if you're constantly grinding but going nowhere, maybe the solution isn't to push harder. Maybe it's to align, to let go, to evolve with your environment, not against it. But Stoicism wasn't just personal growth, it was moral duty. The Stoics didn't preach selfishness. They believed you were part of a larger whole. Marcus wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." In other words, if your actions don't serve others, they don't serve you. Modern self-help often says, focus on you. The Stoics say, serve the world through your character. You don't need to save the world, but you should make it better than you found it. And when you love, the Stoics had one more test. Can you love without attachment? They said, appreciate everything, cling to nothing. Because what you cling to owns you. If losing it destroys you, it was never love. It was dependency. So love deeply, love fiercely. But know, what you love may leave, and you'll still stand. To protect that kind of inner strength, they practiced something called the discipline of assent. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every feeling deserves your action. You question your food. You question your news. But do you question your own thoughts? The Stoics did, ruthlessly. Is this thought true? Is this impulse helpful? Does this action serve my values? They filtered their mind like a king filters letters, letting only the wise ones through. And when you do this long enough, you become unshakable. If this is clicking with you, even a little, pause for a second. Who do you know that needs this? Who's caught in a cycle of worry, drama, or self-doubt? Send them this video. Not to sound smart, not to debate, but because Stoicism didn't spread through algorithms. It spread through conversations. Be that for someone. But here's the truth. A lot of modern Stoicism is trash. It's quotes without context. It's Instagram captions and YouTube montages. It's ego in a toga. Real Stoicism is boring, repetitive, humbling. You fail, you reflect, you try again. That's the way. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." It's not about looking strong. It's about showing up again and again, especially when no one sees. So if you want to be tough, don't yell, don't flex, be calm when it's hardest. And finally, remember this: Stoicism isn't just for tragedy. It's for the tiny daily moments too. Lost your keys? Stuck in traffic? Someone ghosted you? Perfect. Training day. Because those moments, those micro moments, compound. Every small victory builds your mental fortress, until finally, nothing outside controls you. Because that's what Stoicism really offers. Not happiness, not dominance, but freedom. The freedom to respond, not react, to stand when others fall, to think when others spiral. You might lose your money, your job, even your body, but not your character. That's freedom no one can steal. And in a world of noise, Stoicism is signal. Let it guide you.